Tonight, we talk alien rights, Luthor's rights, and is Supergirl right? Supergirl Season 4 premiere, Episode 1, American Alien After Show starts right now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
You see what I did right there? I mixed that because of the title of the show, American Alien, and I just added the American woman, which was what Supergirl is all about. The all-American superhero, Supergirl, who at the beginning of this episode, we find out is everywhere. With Superman off-world, the girl of tomorrow pulls double shifts as she flies around the world, saving everyone from a little girl to saving a painting, and is actually faster than a locomotive from places from Spain to Kaznia, all over the world. Supergirl is back and better than ever. My name's Tehran. I will be hosting and paneling this after show as I'm the only one that's here today. We will have a full panel each and every week going forward, but this week I was here and I'm loving Supergirl Season 4 premiere Episode 1, American Alien. We're going to be talking Supergirl and Jonn Jonezz, Otis and Mercy Graves, Alex and Brainiac 5, Lena and Lillian Luthor, Lena and James, Nia Nal and Kara, President Marsden and Agent Liberty, Evil Supergirl and Supergirl, and more, all right here in that theme of hope versus fear, which Season 4 has been promised to us. Now, I have to say that Season 4 has gotten off to an amazingly good start as we see action-packed Supergirl come in full force. Season 3, which was unanimously almost was decided to be something of a downer because it was kind of anticlimactic, was actually mysteriously just wiped off as if we didn't really talk about it going into Season 4. We're right back to where Season 2 left off and the hype and hysteria of the anti-alien movement and sentiment that we saw sweeping the nation and the world going off of Season 2 with the whole Cadmus and everything, something we kind of strayed from in Season 3. Season 3, of course, promised a lot, but really didn't deliver at the end. But I'm feeling like Season 4 is going to deliver that and more as we see an onset of new casts that play, even if some do play in the old way, but in a good way, and I love being here. So, let's start off with overall thoughts on the show. This episode, American Alien, was one of the better episodes. I was, of course, as I stated, a little bit dismayed with Season 3, and I've always been an advocate for Supergirl as a show when other people saw it as a bit cookie cutter, being from transferring from CBS to CW. I saw it as possibly one of the most woke shows of all the CW universe, and CW has done an extremely good job of staying diverse and hip and modern and progressive and doing a lot with social commentary. And I've always been under the impression that Supergirl was one of those shows that did it in such a sly way that people really didn't understand how woke it would be. So, for example, the average Supergirl episode is comic book, boom, 3 to 5 lines of amazing social commentary and fodder, and then comic book, so it doesn't come off so preachy at times. And I appreciate that a lot. In this episode, we of course saw the return of Supergirl saving everyone. We saw introductions of new villains, with it being really nice to see the concept of Otis and Mercy Graves, who were Luthor's henchmen, going off in the past and on the comic book into this world where they are ran by an Agent Liberty who seems to be the antagonist of what's going to be this season's story arc. Action, fun-filled, right back at it, a lot of drama, a lot of setup, but also a lot of actual fighting scenes, which doesn't always happen when we have that setup episode. When we have a setup episode, a lot of times we find a lot of storyline and explanation and talking and not a lot of boom, boom, boom. But we saw a lot of boom, boom, boom in this one, with the reveal, of course, being that President Marsden is an alien, something that the viewers knew, but the Supergirl universe was not aware of. And that was the big reveal. And then just when you thought it was done, boom, we see an evil Supergirl at the end. We don't even know where that came from, but it was added in because it's going to be, obviously, we're going to see two parts of this season. One's dealing with Agent Liberty, who's the leader of the new anti-alien sentiment going forward, a break from his comic book character in which Agent Liberty was actually a member of the Justice League. And then we see, second boom, evil Supergirl. And the third boom, which I don't know if most people caught on, was the Lillian Luthor storyline, in which she feels that Lena has betrayed her, which of course she did, and the words checkmate come to mind as she puts down the king in the self-played solo game of chess that she was playing. So let's start it off with the concept of pairing with Supergirl versus Jonn Jonezz. Supergirl and Jonn Jonezz have come to a bit of a clash, and what I would say is the social commentary aspect. They're not shying away from comparing the world of Supergirl to the world that we see, unfortunately, politically at large right now, where we have this conservative versus liberal view, but something that's even more subtle and much more of an important strategy that Supergirl takes the role on is the concept that Supergirl, who's an alien, doesn't openly see anti-alien sentiment. And there's a lot of this because the concept, of course, is the anti-alien sentiment is played in whether it's the LGBTQ community or more common, the minority struggle in the United States going on right now with race and a clash of race and groups of people who are unaware of things that are going on. Now, we see Supergirl, who is an alien herself, denying privilege, denying any anti-alien sentiment, even stating, well, I see more love than I ever have before, and Jonn Jonezz making a statement both within the group where we see this alien group of almost like an Alcoholics Anonymous for aliens, in which it's a group counseling session where they get to talk about their woes and problems as aliens. We see Supergirl is doing something that has been done in minority communities for years, and that's that she's passing. And if you don't know what passing is in the advent of times, especially coming off of slavery, passing was when a person of African American black cultural descent was able to pass as skin tone because they were light or almost even equivocally white. And we see this in this episode of Supergirl, where in the group session, we see Dr. Voss coming head to head with another alien who is at this point using an image inducer, which we later find out is made and manufactured by Lena Luthor and the L Corp. But the concept is Dr. Voss, who's a known physicist and his work is finding fame, is a lot easier to swallow as an alien because his features pretty much resemble human features. And honestly, guys, it's something we do all the time. Let's take away the people aspect of it. Let's look at the way we even treat animals. And even though we do, unfortunately, in the world today, treat each other like animals oftentimes, let's look at how we treat animals. We see dogs and cats and anything that reminds us of any human characteristics. We anthropomorphize them and make them like us. And we love them. But we disdain things like snakes and frogs and toads and insects, things that do actually look alien to us in a lot of ways, even though they're just as much animals as well. We do that on a type of instinctual human level. So we see Jonn Jonezz, who is the Martian, passing. He's able to shapeshift and look human, and he does for most of the time throughout all 4 seasons of Supergirl. But not every alien is as quote-unquote fortunate. And we see something come up in the group in which someone says, which I think is possibly the beginning of an extremism on that point of view, is where what is normal? Because the alien states, well, I have the image inducer, so now I can be normal and pass as normal and be normal, because we're used to normal being what every day is out there, what we're shown all the time. it's a lot of thought-provoking conversation that happens in this episode. We see Supergirl denying her privilege, and the interesting thing is, when Dr. Vos speaks up, my first instinct is also you look human, and to the privileged, oppression, equality often feels like oppression. And that's where we see the conflict between humans and aliens arise, right? Dr. Vos is having an easier time because, well, guess what, buddy? You look human. And I can understand that sentiment. And even in the black community, we have things where it's like, well, someone's lighter skinned and gets away with things more because the person who's darker skinned doesn't. And we don't have things like the lightning skin cream. That's like an image inducer in ways. It's a horrible thought to have. I would like to say this, and goes out to everyone at home that has these kind of thoughts, that people of color and minorities and things, we're not aliens. We're not from a different race. We don't have superpowers, even though, some of us are extremely athletic. Let's not. But the truth of the matter is, the concept is to understand that some of the aliens are actually dangerous and are known criminals, which is why a vast majority of them came from a specific prison facility, but also have superpowers and can use them for good or bad. That's very different than just people of color. It's very different. So let's lay that line, because I'm not exactly an advocate of aliens roaming around the earth with superpowers unchecked. I can understand the argument that we should have some type of understanding of who the aliens are, what their powers are, what they're capable of, because we do find in the Supergirl universe a strong number of telepathic aliens, people who've been able to induce mind control. Even the counselor herself is an empath and things like that. Reading your mind is all invasion of privacy. I mean, it's just such a convoluted area. It's so muddy, these waters that we're talking about. It's so much. But the social commentary of the anti-alien sentiment, which we find, let's take it, let's continue our suspension of belief and remind ourselves that equality is equality is equality. With the aliens, we see Jonn Jonezz becoming an alien advocate, and Supergirl denying her privilege. Supergirl looks like a very typical blonde-haired, fair-skinned American, quote-unquote, whatever that's supposed to be, and Supergirl is very easy to pass. She's easy on the eyes. She looks very human. And we all forget at times that she's not. She is an alien who possesses godlike powers. And while we take for granted the fact that Supergirl is good, we have seen her in the past on Red Kryptonite and what it looks like to be in the future with evil Supergirl. What happens when they go rogue, or what happens when they go evil? And we have to be very careful about these. I'd love to hear what you all at home on the podcast and on the after show comment below and let me know what you think. And think of it in all the terms. I do think it's very interesting that we have this conversation between Jonn Jonezz and Supergirl, in which John has to explain to Supergirl how she's passing, and has to explain to her how her life is easier because she looks so quote-unquote human and amicable and amiable and nice and friendly and pretty and easy to deal with, and she's going around saving, and it's not like that for all the aliens. And we see this happen in the black community all the time, in which one person, because of their upbringing or their personal experiences, denies that of the overall community, in which we do find racism is an attributing factor to a lot of the woes and strife of Black or Latino or any person of minority within this country. And that's something where we can't deny. So there's always two sides to every story, and then there's the truth. And while there's an entire side that can't fathom the concept of racism, which in itself is almost racist by denying the concepts of white privilege and things like that, and in this case, human privilege, we also see members of the black community also being in their own way deniers because of their personal experiences, as we see aliens and Supergirl denying their privilege. Very good writing, CW writers. You guys have done an excellent job in all your shows. And I've always been such an advocate of the fact that Supergirl is one of the most woke, if not the most woke, of all the CW shows, and especially in the DC universe. So great job there. Great way to start a discussion. Now, not every discussion on the show is as heavy and as depressing. We do have the introduction of Otis and Mercy Graves. Otis and Mercy Graves are Luthor's minions from the comic book and in some of the movies and going back and forth, and we see them introduced here. Otis being the oofus and Mercy being the brains. And with Mercy and Otis, it is a lot like the Pinky and Brain syndrome, where actually Otis, who comes off very stupid, does random times do things or say things that are extremely intelligent and smart, and it's even if they are scary. Mercy, as we find out, was the head of Luthor's security before he went to prison. Lex Luthor, not Lena, of course. And we see that she exhibits the skills of someone who is a head of security. This is a person who stands up to Agent Danvers, a highly trained DEO officer who we've seen stand up to aliens and humans alike. And she has a hard time with Mercy Graves. She has a hard time. Mercy Graves, if I could say, might have even kind of kicked her ass a little. Caught her off guard, broke out of the tackle, did a cool move, and then threw the electro charge at her. We also see Otis and Mercy take on Supergirl with professionalism as they break into Dr. Vose's laboratory, right? They're there to steal an EMP, which we later find out is part of their plot at the alien summit that President Marsden is having to expose her. We are wondering throughout the episode why they're going for this EMP. What good could an EMP do? And we see that the EMPs are typically very large devices. This is a very small handheld one. But that's where we see Mercy and Otis, and we don't see we see Mercy be laid back and very calm and collected, obviously a professional. We see Otis being the strong arm, the guy who makes the moves, but Mercy is clearly capable of handling herself. Now, Mercy is the brains, Otis is the bronze, possibly a little more. They're also brother and sister, which changes the dynamic. And we hear mention of this when Mercy threatens Otis by saying, it's going to be like, if you do it again, it'll be like Family Vacation 1996, except there won't be any EMTs to resuscitate you. And we're all stuck there wondering what happened in the Family Vacation. But whatever it was definitely to show that Mercy is the cold-blooded, calculated one who's willing to do whatever it takes. We also find out that Mercy and Otis betrayed Lex in order to get some form of amnesty or get out of trouble, and Lillian might have a bit of a vengeance about them as she gives up information on their whereabouts in that aspect. Do we know for sure that Mercy and Otis betrayed Lex, or was that all part of the plan? With the Luthors, you never ever know. That's what makes it interesting. We do know that they are at least not just for hire, but believers, because the passion in which they fight for the anti-alien clause and sentiment is one that a gun for hire doesn't have. They're doing it because they seem to believe in this cause. They want to expose and technically eliminate and alienate all the aliens on Earth. They find them to be a threat and want to expose them and dispose of all of them. Another pairing that we see as a conflict in this episode is Alex and Brainiac. Before I move on from Otis and Mercy, I do want to state that Mercy did turn around and shoot her brother in the chest, causing Supergirl to save him, and of course, for her to be able to get away. But Otis knew the whole time, hey, my sister, what, you thought she would kill me? For a second, yeah, Otis, we did, because she seems crazy. But yeah. So, moving on to Alex and Brainiac 5. We see Alex and Brainiac, of course, being a part of the DEO now. Because Wynn has moved on to the future with the Legends, and Brainiac is now in our time from the future. And we see that he's constantly just messing up. And when I say messing up, it's because Alex is a bit of a control freak and likes things done a certain way. And Brainiac, of course, Brainy has this idea of how to do things and calculates things within nanoseconds, and is just goes off and isn't used to the dynamic of how the DEO and who we see the promoted Agent Danvers, now Director Danvers of the DEO, work. We see this element play out to the point where Brainiac either does too little or does too much, as Alex points out. Alex, we've seen in the past, season 2 and season 3, and of course with the breakup with Maggie, we see that Alex has a very hard time with change. And the introduction of Brainiac and the removal of Wynn is clearly a change that Brainiac has noticed. It doesn't go unnoticed. Brainiac, by the end of the episode, starts acting like Wynn, wearing the sweaters and dressing like him, and almost having his mannerisms in certain ways, which I thought was amazingly good acting. We see that Alex admits to having an issue with change, and that's a real thing. It's Alex, you're now the director. Alex, you have to be aware to utilize your team to the best of their ability. You actually have one of the, if not the most intelligent creature in the universe on your team. Please utilize it. I also think it's very interesting that Brainiac's power is to interact with computers on a light speed field, and they just show it by him just thinking intensely. And while it could come off as a cheap ploy for a special effect, I actually find it very good, and I enjoy it very much. I enjoy his interaction. He's clearly going to play the humorous aspect of the show on this season. We see that dry humor that we often like in that form of a character, the deadpanness, the person who takes everything literal when told by Alex, you can only breathe when I tell you to breathe. He asks for permission to breathe again. It's very funny. It's very fun. And we enjoy it. We enjoy that. At least I did. I don't know what you guys, please let me know if you like the addition of him into the show. The look with he's gotten rid of the blue skin and the blonde hair. He looks a little more human again, but also ethnic, which adds more to the diversity of this cast, because this cast, if nothing else, is diverse. Alex, by the way, I hope you watch the show, because I hope you know, A, I love you, and B, I love your hair. If you guys don't know me from the other DC shows that I do after shows for, I love these strong women and their portrayal on screen. It's always a great look, and I appreciate them all. Thank you so much. And we also learn a little about Alex more, because she's now dating, which was something that was not working for her. So now that we find her dating and we see that she's open to things, I hope to find a new love interest for her, and possibly a love interest for Brainy too. That could play out very interesting and fun. Reminds me of Data from Star Trek: The Next Generation, if you are into that world. Very, very fun. Now, what's not so fun is the passive-aggressive relationship between Lena and Lillian Luthor. These two Luthors are both in their own way very deadly, and one because she seems to be so good, and the other one because she's so evil but thinks that she is good, and we don't know who to trust. I'm always on edge whenever I see Luthors on the screen. I'm just on edge. Lex Luthor, of course, being one of my favorite all-time villains, but Lena and Lillian Luthor put him to shame in their way, in their mannerisms. It's like I'm always waiting to be bit, like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And these two amazing actors clash on the screen in such a way that I often wonder if they're like this off screen, but they're probably best of friends. Lena being the adopted daughter of Lillian Luthor, but the real daughter of her husband, which is an interesting fact that we found out, I believe, in season 2. Now, the two have always had a rocky relationship where Lena has never felt the love of her mother. Lillian has always favored Lex growing up, which is interesting because not only just because it is her biological son, but we find out that Lena is the daughter of the woman who Lex's father cheated on Lillian with, and so there is a lot of animosity there, but she still accepted Lena into her home, and she always says she loves her, even though we see that her love is very, very much conditional. But Lena's love is conditional too. Lena is showing a lot of apathy for Lillian by visiting her in jail. Visiting her in jail several times. In this 1 week, 2 times alone, which is something which would be unfathomable. And she chalks it up to the fact that with everything going on with James, who we're going to talk about next, Lena and James, of course, being James Olsen, who's in trouble for being the Guardian. She's like, I'm feeling like I need to be with family more, and I have a little more empathy for what's going on with you. And we believe her. As the audience, we believe her. We find out at the end that this is a farce, that she actually was visiting her mother to basically get information and turn on her so that she could save her beloved James. They are playing chess, which is a very telling Luthor thing to do. I personally am a very big fan of chess. They sit there and they play chess, and Lena relishes in saying checkmate to her mother and winning. Now, a part of me thinks that Lillian is letting Lena win. And that's very interesting. Whether it's out of love or some form of conniving manipulation is yet to be seen. There's so much more that's going to be coming from the Luthor storyline, especially from Lillian Luthor. You can't keep a Luthor in jail, and that's something we know for a fact. Interesting dynamic between the two. Supergirl comes and visits Lillian, is surprised to see Lena, and Lena is just as surprised to see Supergirl, because as Kara, as Kara, Lena and Kara have a very fun, friendly relationship. I went with the Kara because it's an ode to Kat Baxter, who Kara is slowly becoming, as we're going to discuss later. But they have a very strong friendship, but there's some type of rivalry or wall that's up between Lena and Supergirl, whether Lena kind of does blame Supergirl for things that have gone on in her life, even though she counts on her and calls on her, or because they're both trying to save the world, but in very different ways. That's also an interesting dynamic that needs to play out. We also see more of the relationship between Lena Luthor and James Olsen, who are in a relationship. They are in a relationship, full going, and they're together. And it's like James loves every single girl on the show. He's just going straight through them, right? Every girl that has a pretty good job, he just falls in love with. But so James, who's the CEO of Catco at this point and just running the publication, and Lena, who bought it, they're together in a relationship, and James is in trouble for the investigation of being Guardian, which, as we know, Guardian was the anti-superhero for a lot of season 2 going into season 3, and committed some things that vigilantism is a crime. If nothing else, there are things that have happened, and there's an investigation that should go on. Lena, being the alpha that she is, wants to help James, her beloved, as any of us would. But James is like, let me do it. I can handle it. James is being Guardian in his James form, and it's like, I can handle it. I don't need your help. You don't need to pull strings. I don't want to get you in trouble. Looking out for everyone, trying to save the world. Lena betrays her own mother and secretly gives the DA information on a RICO investigation in exchange for James's amnesty for past crimes. DA throws a twist. You can no longer be Guardian, or you will be persecuted in the future. That's going to be an interesting storyline to follow. See how that plays out, because James, as we know, cannot just sit still. James has to do things. James wants to do things, wants to be Guardian, loved being Guardian as much as he loves being a publication magnate. he loves this. He loves that. And I wonder often, is it selflessness or is it a form of selfishness? And it's been a conflict that's come up before. So hopefully James and Lena, I like them. Clearly they're going to get into some type of road bump. It can't be, when you have two alphas in a relationship like this, it's not going to, and especially with so much, their professional life and their love life is so intertwined, it's not going to be an easy road. It is not going to be an easy road. I expect a road bump, a major one along the way. Let's find out what that is. Introducing a new character who everyone's been waiting for and is a dream girl of sorts because she eventually is to play Dream Girl if the comic book is true. Nia Nal enters, and Nia Nal and Kara have an immediate relationship in which Kara sees a lot of herself in Nia Nal, which is an interesting aspect because Nia Nal was a very hyped character coming into this season. Why? Not only because everyone's looking forward to Nia Nal and Dream Girl, but more because Nia Nal is the actor Nicole Maines, known from Dover's Clinchy and a very important, prominent figure in the trans community. Nia Nal, Nicole Maines, was born and marked as a male, and from the age of 3 or so has identified personally as a female. Interesting dynamic coming from this young, beautiful woman who portrays Nia Nal so well. And I'm not saying that because it's the politically correct answer. I was going into this wondering how is Nicole Maines going to pull this off? Can she be the Nia Nal that we want? And we see such a vulnerable, delicate, wonderful, intelligent young woman who reminds us a lot of Kara Danvers in season 1, especially the first couple episodes, who has this passion, this good within her that wants to do good. And it's so interesting to see because later we're hoping she too becomes a superhero. And it's interesting to see more is that this is the first portrayal of trans on screen. And there is no mention of her being trans, which I thought was even more important. There was no storyline, well, you're trans and we have to discuss trans. It just is. That's kind of how roles should be, where people just are people, and we don't have to discuss it or stereotype them or put them in these boxes, because boxes are meant for things and not people. Very good portrayal, and we also see an interesting change, a transformation, if you will, not in Nia Nal, but in Kara. We see Kara being like Cat. Even though term TikTok might as well have been Chop Chop, and we remember Chop Chop from season 1, having Cat, and so with Cat only making a once a year appearance, this is nice to see Kara be Cat. Good for them. I really enjoy the storyline. I'm waiting for Nia Nal to become Dream Girl and see how that plays out. A lot of criticism online, a lot of backlash, but what's even more promising is all the words of inspiration and hope and support for this role. A role which we now see after episode 1 is extremely well deserved. Good for you. We see another play of conflict between President Marsden, and we've known throughout the seasons, little things have shown us that President Marsden is actually an alien, and we know that she's an alien from Durlan, came to this earth and rose to prominence and eventually presidency. She actually was Kat's RA in college, which is a little tidbit of information we found out throughout the season. So here we go. As Superman's on Argo, and we have one alien gone, we have the exposure of another alien, President Marsden, who is the president of the United States on the show. Female president, probably another stab at social commentary, which didn't play out in real life, but at least did in Supergirl. We see that President Marsden is extremely progressive, is extremely liberal, and as an alien, we understand her plight and fight for alien rights. She, of course, enacted the alien amnesty legislation, which is how aliens are now roaming the earth and have inalienable, no pun intended, rights on Earth, and especially in the United States, which gives it a little bit of an X-Men feel. If you know, I hate to cross the streams, but it does with all that talk and this alien hysteria, but it does give it an X-Men feel to it. We see something of President Marsden as she reveals herself in her true form in season 3. We see the eyes flash up in seasons 1 going into 2, and in this one, we understand now what Otis and Mercy were trying to do. They were trying to expose President Marsden, which begs the question, how did they know? How did they know when no one else knew? How did they know? And we are going to hopefully get to the bottom of that. There has to be some type of betrayal. There has to be something, some indication. But that's the true form of President Marsden right there. We see that true form. Who is President Marsden? An alien. Does she have sinister plans and agendas? We haven't seen any of that. We've only seen a wonderful person. I will say this, that it is technically, she is ineligible to be the president. She was not born in the United States, and we don't really know her age, but clearly wasn't born in the United States, which is the number one, as you remember with President Obama, number one precursor of how to become president, right? You have to be born here, and she was not. So as much as we love President Marsden, she is in violation, and this is clearly an impeachable act. Is it the worst thing going on in the world right now? Not really, but it is technically an act, and it is a form of a federal crime. What is also a federal crime is the way Agent Liberty, who we also see being the man with the plan behind the mask. So while we expose President Marsden and it's Agent Liberty's plan, we see Agent Liberty with a full-on mask, and we barely see his face all the way to the end, and we never actually see his face. We see the mask, and we haven't met the man behind the mask yet, but that man is going to be, it's an amazing actor in Whitwer, but that man is going to be someone sinister. But if Supergirl is any indication of the past going into the present, is going to be someone we all are familiar with. It's going to be someone we recognize. Agent Liberty, whose plan we now find out at the end is to expose President Marsden. With the MP, the inducer goes off, and we see a lot of tech in this episode. We see the gravity cuffs, we see the sunbeam gun, we see the electric bomb of sorts, and we see the image inducer, and it stops working long enough for them to snap a photo and escape. So the plan seems to be working. The news at the end plays, of course, the storyline of Guardian getting amnesty, the RICO statute for the accountants that the Luthors had, and in a shocking piece of news that we weren't paying attention to as an audience, President Marsden was exposed, and we see that picture, and it's global. And honestly, if something like that came out, there would be hysteria. That's crazy information. I wonder how that's going to play out. And lastly, we see another surprise. Just when you thought it was but wait, there's more. Evil Supergirl is revealed under that train in Casnia where Supergirl was faster than the locomotive. We see evil Supergirl, or what seems to be the remnants of Red Sun, or whoever it's going to play out to be, just punching away. And we only assume she's evil because of how it's dictated through the show. Now, maybe Russia just wants their own Supergirl to save the world. We don't know. But the way she was just punching and punching away, we see an evil Supergirl, and it's played out. And we only get a little teaser of that, a little snippet, a little teaser. Very interesting. This entire season seems to be starting off on the right foot, thankfully, with a lot of teasers and a lot of setups. We see these setups with Nia Nal, for example, showing her car in this where she's really passionate but shy in the meeting. We see Lillian Luthor and her conniving look as she pushes the king down, and we see a James who's going to be frustrated. A lot of setup going forward. A lot of setup. You know what? I'll tell you another thing that's set up is that we love you AfterBuzzers. Thank you so much for watching our show. Our network produces after shows for nearly all of your favorite TV shows. From dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more, there is no network that works harder to serve television fans. But we need your help. We're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channel, YouTube will suggest content that's tailor-made for you, and you'll help AfterBuzz continue to grow. And obviously, by the lack of our panel, we need it. No, we will have a full panel next week, as always. And if you're worried about pesky notifications, don't be, because they're optional. So hit that subscribe button now for this channel and check out our other AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comments below. If anyone's ever commented on my show, you know that I respond to almost every single one, and we'll thank you on air. So thank you so much for now. Thanks for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV talk. Let's go to predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
Ooh, predictions. Clearly, we have to know more about what's going on with President Marsden. That's the big one. If there's nothing else, I mean, exposing the president as an alien, something that could actually happen even in our timeline. Exposing the president as an alien is a big news story no matter what Earth you're on, whether it's Earth 38 or Earth 1001, right? So let's find out more about President Marsden. And it can't be all dreamy when James finds out what Lena did, because he will find out the truth, and Supergirl always has a way to find its way to the light. Let's see how Brainy continues to work in the DEO. Something tells me his brainy ways save the day. Otis and Mercy Graves, I don't think you can keep Otis down. Mercy seems like they're the yin and yang, and Mercy will come back and free Otis. And I will bet you one Martian nickel that we see a lot more anti-alien sentiment going further, which is probably going to be the overlying theme of this season, is that concept. So it's very good to see that clash of hope versus fear, something we struggle with on our own world, play out in Supergirl. And if you have a problem with the word girl, the problem's probably with you and not the word, like Kat Baxter said, because I don't know anything stronger than a girl, especially this one. She starts off the episode by saying, for the first time in my life, I have everything under control. And we find out at the end, it seems like nothing's under control. So let's find out more. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here with us this week in this live Supergirl after show. Episode 1 was fantastic. Episode 2 looks very promising as well. My name's Tehran. Find me on social media at I am Tehran. That's IamTehran. Across the board. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm on a lot of AfterBuzz shows. I had fun. I know I was the only one. You're probably tired of hearing my voice. I'm tired of hearing my own voice, but if you want to hear more, check me out on shows like Sheesh. We just started DC Titans today, and that's another DC show. I'm hoping to get on The Flash. We'll see how that plays out, and much, much more. I'm at the Laugh Factory every Monday and Thursday at 10 as well. Thank you so much for being with us. We will see you next week right here, and by we, I mean me. See you guys later.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.